Hey, this is Heidi Dawson. If you love all things health and wellness and style of any kind, hang out here with me each week. I'm obsessed with never-ending improvement, and it's all in an effort to help each one of us live a wildly successful lifestyle. Subscribe today so you don't miss a thing. Hi, guys. Welcome to episode 142 of the Wildly Successful Lifestyle Podcast. So recently when I have had downtime, I've been reading another one of Dr. Dispenza's books called You Are the Placebo. You know what I love about his books? It isn't that they're an easy read, because they are not. He gets deep in the weeds on the brain and how it works. But ultimately, his books make me feel empowered. They inspire me. And who doesn't love to be inspired? In the last episode, I talked about having moments of inspiration and capitalizing on them when we do, because we aren't going to feel that way all the time. But I got curious and I did a little bit of research on what makes people feel inspired, because I so love to feel that way. In fact, I journal every morning that one of the things I really want is to feel joyous, alive, and inspired daily. And I know that sounds like a dream, or maybe like I'm trying to live in La La Land. But think about it. If you actually set your intention to feel that way, to feel joyous, alive, and inspired every day, you're probably going to show up a little differently than if you were just waking up hoping not to be late for work. But I have to ask myself, when do I feel the most inspired? And I thought about it a lot, and it really seems like when I'm creating or when I'm learning. So when I'm creating my cartoons or my videos for Instagram, when I'm creating these episodes, that's always super inspiring. And also when I'm doing my next unit in my feng shui course. I have found that exercising and walking in nature, those are all very inspiring to me. And actually, when I did the research, those are a lot of the same things that make most people feel inspired. So basically challenging yourself in one way or another, spending time in nature. And it seems like anymore, though, distraction and entertainment are so prevalent and addictive. I think you can agree on that. That inspiration is hard to come by long term. So it might pop up in the form of a post or a TikTok, but by the nature of social media, within a second or two, we're scrolling on to the next post. And it's probably going to be negative or political or just puppies and kittens playing, which gives us all these roller coaster feelings that our brain loves, but it doesn't really allow for us to ever just sit and think. And during my research, I also found that on just about every list showing what hurts our creativity or causes our brain to go on autopilot where we're not feeling inspired is, you probably could guess it, consuming too much TV or spending too much time on social media. So inspiration anymore has to be sort of intentional, because it's easy to get distracted. It's so easy. But you have to. Inspiration is something you feel in your bones. It's something that comes from the inside. It's a pulling force. It's almost like a calling you have to answer. That's why it's so crucial to be able to quiet your mind so that you can hear it. And sometimes we feel like, we'll just get motivated and do this and do that. But motivation and inspiration are sort of separate. They're different. Motivation to me is more external, and I love motivation. I love a good motivation book or motivational seminar. But inspiration is more internal. It's more of effortless and a feeling of pulling you towards something. Here's the thing, though. I don't feel inspired when I'm watching TV or reading the news or scrolling on TikTok or Instagram. Maybe there are moments of inspiration, but so few have the willpower to stop scrolling when they read an inspirational quote and go do something about it. I know I don't. When I start scrolling, 45 minutes later, and I'm like, darn it, I can't get that time back. So if you're feeling less than inspired, but you have something inside you pulling you, telling you there's more for you, then you have got to give it a chance. You've got to free your mind from the chains of consuming. And I looked that word up because we're using it a lot lately. And it actually means to completely fill one's mind and attention. And I think that's what we're all doing with our phones. So it means we have to put the phone down. And it might be a little hard at first because we're so conditioned to just do everything on our phone. Restaurants even have their menus on their phone now. I don't like that at all. It makes everyone get on their phones right out of the gate. I mean, I always ask for a menu because I don't want to use my phone at the table, and they'll always give you one. They don't mind. And at first, it will seem a little weird and hard and awkward because sitting at a table alone, just taking in the scenery while your husband runs to the restroom does feel weird. It's not the norm anymore. It's more comfortable to grab my phone and bury my head until he comes back out. But then I miss the adorable waitress's side story or the little cute baby next to me trying to get my attention. And I consider myself an extrovert, but since COVID, even I'm not sure how to interact with strangers. My brain has me questioning if someone even would want to say hi because everyone's so afraid of everyone else. But is that true, or is that just my brain telling stories? So the easiest thing is just to stick my head in the phone and act busy, and I still do that occasionally. But guess what? I'm just distracting myself from life, from connecting, from all the good stuff. Which reminds me of a story that I love this story. It's a philosophy professor. He stood in front of his class one day with a large empty mayonnaise jar. He fills the jar with large rocks, and he fills it to the top, completely full, and asks his students if the jar was full. Well, they all agreed, yep, it's full. Well, then he took small pebbles and he poured them into the jar. He shook it so that they kind of distributed themselves among the larger rocks. Now he asked the students again if the jar is full. They're like, okay, yes, this time it's full. Well, he then proceeded to pour sand into the jar to fill up all the remaining empty space. So they definitely agreed it was full then. You see, that jar represents our life. And the rocks and the pebbles and the sand are the things that fill up our life. The rocks represent the big stuff, the important stuff like family and friends and our health. If the pebbles and the sand weren't there, our life would still have meaning with just the rocks. Now, the pebbles represent our job, our hobbies, our house. These things come and go, but aren't necessarily permanent or essential to your overall well-being. And the sand represents the fillers. Watching TV, scrolling, doing whatever your favorite social media is. You see, if you filled the jar up with sand first, you'd eventually run out of space for the important things like family, friends, your health. You could see how that could happen. So my challenge to you this week is to get a book. Any book that you love. One that I love and is very inspiring, very short. It's an easy read. Is 212, The Extra Degree by Mac Anderson. It's really good. I think you will really like it. It's short and it will have you high-fiving yourself if no one else is around. But anyway, get any book and keep it with you. Just keep it on your person, in your purse. If you're a guy, just keep it with you for at least once each day. When you're grabbing for your phone to scroll because you feel bored or anxious or sad or whatever feeling it is, stop for 1 minute and let yourself feel that feeling, because it isn't scary, you can do it, and then read 1 or 2 pages in your book, and then go back to doing whatever it is you're doing. I'm going to be doing this right along with you. What we're doing is we're training our brain to not only be okay with feeling our feelings that we're trying to avoid, trying to distract ourselves from, but also to break our habit of distraction by phone. Because reading is one of the fastest ways to feel inspired. And who doesn't love that? I love you guys, and I'll talk to you in a few days. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends, because we're just going to keep going bigger and better places together, and I love that about us. Talk to you in a few days.